Okay, so remember the process here. We're looking to create our own illustrated examples of these features identified by Tannen. So there's 6 features here: status versus support, independent versus intimacy, advice versus understand, information versus feelings, orders versus proposals, conflict versus compromise. And really they illustrate the differences, the binary oppositions um, of female and male behavior that is seen to categorize and separate. Because actually, that little verses in itself is indicative, isn't it, of opposition, of a sense of tension that you are either or. You're either independent and therefore male, or you go after intimacy and you're female. So we were talking about advice versus understanding. Okay, so men see language as problem solving, women see it as a means of empathy. So a classic example often used with this is the idea that something bad happens. So didn't I say you've just failed your driving test? Now, guys, I am being stereotypical, okay, just to illustrate it really quickly. So you come in, you failed your driving test. Dad sits you down and offers you advice. So, darling, what points did you fail on? Reversing. Okay, well, did you make sure when you were reversing that you mirror signal maneuvered, that you were in control of the steering wheel? Actually, if that was me, what I would have done is, and they begin to give advice. Women, on the other hand, according to Tannen, according to this popular trail of belief or trail of thought and therefore belief, would say, oh, understand. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. That must feel really frustrating. I know that you'd spent loads of money on that and you were really hoping to pass today. I'm so sorry. Let me make you a cake. So women are offering empathy. So that's like an emotional kind of connection and relating to you in your sense of failure or upset, the level of emotion. Whereas men are offering advice. They're interacting and trying to come into your situation at the level of logic and reason and help get a way out of it. Now, this is where the idea of miscommunication comes in, because actually, depending on whether you're the male or the female, or the woman or the man, it can lead to miscommunication. So another example to illustrate this, okay? So you've lost you're a boy, a man, you've just lost your job, okay? You've been furloughed, you work in the restaurant industry, and suddenly you've lost your job, okay? Other male friends might start offering you advice. Right, what you need to do is you need to get on to Citizens Advice. This is my mate Maurice, he's looking for a chef. And they start to give you advice. What you need to do is make sure your CV's up to date. What you need to do is make sure this. Again, women might say, oh, that's rubbish. I feel so, oh, that's so annoying. I can't believe they did that to you. That's so unfair. We start trying to create connection that way. But the misunderstanding occurs, or the miscommunication occurs, is where it depends what that person needs. Now, if you need the advice and the advice is going to make you feel in control, like you can sort this situation out, that makes you feel good. Whereas the empathy, the emotional, oh, that must really hurt, might dent your pride or make you feel a little bit more exposed and vulnerable. So you might reject the woman's understanding in favor of the advice, or reverse it. Okay, you're a woman that's lost your job, and immediately you come in, and what you really want is somebody to say, that's terrible. I'm really sorry you've lost your job. It must feel so unfair. Let me just sit with you. Tell me how you feel. But you come home and your partner who's male is like, right, okay, let's get your CV updated. Let's see what jobs are out there. Now, you might misunderstand or interpret that advice as being patronizing, unfeeling. He's so cold. He doesn't understand me. And that's where the stereotypes get fed by Tannen. Tannen feeds into these stereotypes of miscommunication between the sexes. And around this one of advice and understanding is a key point used to illustrate this. So advice might be, as we said, I think you should. You need to. You must take time and update your CV. So that's the language of advice. Language of understanding is, I'm really sorry. So it uses those kind of abstract nouns, emotive vocabulary. I'm really sorry. That must feel really bad. You must be feeling really hacked off. And that's demonstrating understanding. Now that links back to the intimacy of women in this stereotype, that's showing support and understanding versus the independence of men's advice. Okay, so we're illustrating these. What about information versus feelings? So males are concerned with facts, women with emotions. So actually that overlaps with advice and understanding again. So the idea that men give information, women talk about their feelings. Okay, so a man, gosh, it's a sunny day today. It's probably going to hit about 21 degrees. This is the hottest day of the year. It's going to hit about 21 degrees. wow, that's hot. A woman, oh, I can't believe it's so gorgeous and warm and sunny today. I just can't wait to get out and enjoy the sun. So women, language of emotions, enjoy, great, I love it. Men, language of information, it's 21 degrees out there. It's going to be the hottest day of the year. Now, both of them are talking about the hot weather. So the miscommunication becomes when we don't listen to each other, not what the other's saying, but we misinterpret. Now, orders versus proposals. Now, number 5, circle number 5, put a big star next to it. This is an immediate overlap with Goodwin and the idea of mitigated and aggravated directives. So they do corroborate each other. The findings of Goodwin do support and corroborate Tannum. So orders versus proposals. Men use imperatives, females use hidden directives. So men, make me tea. Women, oh, it'd be really nice if you cooked dinner tonight. Now, again, I'm deliberately being stereotypical. I'm deliberately using or trying to use examples that illustrate those stereotypes. So orders versus proposals. Yep. Turn off the TV. It's time for bed. Could you turn off the TV? Do you think it's time that we should go up now? Shall I turn off the TV? So hidden directives versus the imperatives. And conflict versus compromise. So again, the sadness for me in these stereotypes is it perpetuates social stereotypes, the belief that men are only ever driven by, conflict and aggression, whereas women are soft and are about compromise. Neither of these stereotypes helps either of the genders. When we reinforce stereotypes, we create generalizations. We stop seeing people as individuals and we start to categorize them based on shared characteristics with other men / other women. And that can be dangerous ground. But last but not least, then number 6, conflict versus compromise. Men will argue, women will try to find a middle ground. So women, again, will use maybe language of compromise, tag questions. Men will use conflict. Okay, so another typical scenario. What shall we watch on TV tonight? Hamilton's out this weekend. Let's watch Hamilton versus, nope, I would like to watch the football. So men will argue, I don't want to watch Hamilton. Look, it's football. It's only on tonight, live. Hamilton is on Disney Plus now for the rest of the month. I know you're saying that, but Hamilton, I really want to watch it if we catch the atmosphere of the premiere tonight. It's going to be so exciting. I've been waiting for this. I love this musical. What about if we watch Hamilton and record the football? So women are trying to find a middle ground. Men are like, now I want to watch the football. Now, again, all of these examples are stereotypes, very stereotypical language, but you need illustrated examples. Okay? So for each of those now, just press pause. And make sure for each of those, you've got an example of language to illustrate each area. Okay? Now, make it bigger again. Now, because I was illustrating when we were in school together, the importance of the mark scheme and illustrated examples, here's another way to approach illustrated examples, okay? So we've got female and male characteristics, okay? So here are male characteristics of language and how it's different to female. So this could overlap. This could be used within any of those 6 features, okay? So independence, use of personal pronouns. The pronoun I could be seen as interpreted as a sign of independence. Singular pronouns, me, I, is the language of independence. What about the language of conflict? You. So using that personal pronoun, you can suddenly take on a conflicting tone, a tone of kind of aggression. You will do it my way. So men, according to Tannen and the difference model, are likely to use oppositional or polarizing language. Us versus them. That's right, that's wrong. So if we're talking about the language of compromise of women, there'll be more what we call kind of hedges and overlaps. The direct language of men, oppositional, polarizing language. You're right, I'm wrong. That's silly, that's good. Okay, factive verbs. Now, factive verbs are like the verb to be. It is raining. Anything that presents information as if it's a fact. Okay, so men are often associated with the language of report, of advice, of information, and therefore more likely to use factive verbs. It is 37 degrees out today. Okay, so similarly then, within the verb phrasing and the verb choices of men, we get these modals of certainty. It will, we must. So modals of certainty create that degree of certainty. Must, will. Okay, use of the explicit commands, the imperatives. Again, this list takes us back to Goodwin as well. So if we're illustrating Goodwin with real examples, we can use some of these as well. Explicit commands, in other words, the imperative, sit down, take off your shoes and socks, going back to our doctor. Okay, now men are more likely to use interruptions. So because men are driven more by status than support, they're likely to interrupt, okay, to stop somebody in the middle of what they're saying. Now, in a minute, we look at overlap. Interruptions and overlaps both really stop what somebody else is saying, but with different intent and different reasons. Topic initiations, okay, because of men's status, their independence, their confidence, they're more likely, we've seen it in the data, to be successful in their topic initiations. And men are more likely to use concrete nouns. So again, you can create this list and try and illustrate it with your own examples. So personal pronouns for men, I, we. I, me. Singular pronouns, I, me, etc. Use of opposition or polarizing language, us and them, me versus you, right, wrong. So it's those ideas of opposites, okay? Right and wrong, good and bad, very oppositional language, or one or the other. Factive verbs, the verb is, modals of certainty, must, we will, we should. Explicit commands and imperatives, sit down, take off your shoes. Interruptions, interruptions, topic initiations, let's talk about cars, let's talk about women, let's talk about football. I'm being deliberately stereotypical, forgive me. And then use of concrete nouns. Now, on the women's side, we've got use of inclusive pronouns and plural pronouns. We, us. Yeah, use of inclusive supportive language. Let's. So stative verbs as opposed to factive verbs. So verbs that suggest I was thinking, I feel. Modals of choice. We might, we could, we may. Use of hedges and mitigated directives. I know you might not want to, but I was thinking that if you didn't mind that kind of hedging of the language, one good idea could possibly to be we might want to. So that's a combination of modals and verbs to create hedges and mitigated directives. Overlaps. Now, an interruption versus an overlap. Both are actually about speaking into or over somebody else. So somebody else is talking and suddenly we get an overlap or an interruption. What's the difference? An overlap is actually still supportive. It shows agreement, excitement with what the other person's saying. So somebody's talking and they're yes, no, oh yeah, no, that's brilliant, yeah, no, I love it. I'm exactly the same. They're overlapping, that they're talking when the other person's still talking, but it shows excitement, agreement, affirmation. It's a positive. Interruption is the way of saying I'm not interested in what you're saying. So it's driven by something completely different. I'm not interested in what you're saying. Like we saw from the starter set of data. So in women's conversation, we tend to get the rejection of topics. There's a failed attempt to initiate conversation starters. Let's talk about, no, people move the conversation in a different direction. And women are likely to use abstract nouns. So nouns that describe feelings, love, excitement, fear. So women want to talk about their feelings, men want to give advice. So concrete nouns versus abstract nouns. So this again is another way of approaching illustrated examples. Really what we want to do is to combine the two, particularly for Tannen. Tannen presents the differences in men and women as opposites. So we have orders versus proposals, advice versus understanding. Within the advice, we might see men using factive verbs, explicit commands, and concrete nouns such as, whereas women in offering or showing understanding might use abstract nouns to show an emotional connection. I feel so sad. I feel so sorry for you. They might use modals of choice. We could do this, we could do that. And then we're beginning to illustrate those examples. So what I want you to do, just to take that to an end today, is to make sure, look through those, you have your illustrated examples for each of those 6, and that you've got this list recorded. Okay, guys, and I'll see you for our next lesson on Wednesday.